Hello, we are back, and less than a week later. And so I'm picking out a whole new batch of movies this month. And so I thought, what better choice for this fall season than the Coen brothers' 2000 film, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? So the film, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, begins right away with the sounds of a chain gang working as three convicts escape. Their names are Everett, Pete, and Delmar. They've set out to find the treasure that Everett buried before his arrest. The film is set in rural Mississippi during the Great Depression, but as you can see from the film's opening titles, it is a loose adaptation of Homer's The Odyssey. The Coen brothers said that they had not read The Odyssey before writing Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, and so once they realized how similar their story was to The Odyssey, they kind of leaned into it and made it more of an adaptation. And so many of the characters and plot elements of the story are taken from The Odyssey. And of course it also features the Coen brothers' signature humor, with lots of witty dialogue and slapstick throughout.
Say, any of you boys, Smithies? Or, if not Smithies per se, were you otherwise trained in the metallurgic arts before straitened circumstances forced you into life aimless wandering?
Another big element of this film is the cinematography. This film was shot by Roger Deakins, who, if you don't know, is one of the best cinematographers working today. He's been nominated for 15 Oscars, and he's won 2 in the last 3 years. He most frequently works with the Coen brothers, Sam Mendes, Denis Villeneuve, but he's also worked with some other big names like Frank Darabont and Martin Scorsese. The Coen brothers have worked with Roger Deakins for almost 20 years now, and so they've been developing this kind of distinct look to their films. The image always feels very simplified, always easy to read. The subjects and the actions are always very clear. The Coen brothers have always been very good at conveying jokes and information through inserts. And so even though their films are a bit tougher to pick out stylistically, I find them to often use inserts in a very specific way that kind of sets them apart from other filmmakers. And often these inserts are used as callbacks. For instance, Everett's Dapper Dan hair jelly, as he calls it, becomes kind of a running gag through these inserts after he makes such a big deal out of it in one of the stores.
I'm a Dapper Dan man.
And another thing you'll likely notice is the coloring of the film. And this was actually the first Hollywood feature film to use digital color correction to make the colors in the film more faded to resemble some of the photos that were taken at the time. And if you look at what the locations look like when they were filming, you can really see what a difference this made.
You know, Joel and Ethan never want to see the film printed in color from the original negative because they saw one shot and they were just like so appalled because it's just the antithesis of what we were wanting to achieve. But in order to have the control digitally, you wanted those saturated colors so you could actually select them later on in as a digital image.
And the film also has a very memorable soundtrack. It features 2 of the Coens' frequent collaborators, Carter Burwell and T-Bone Burnett. And the film features a broad mix of period and newly composed music. And I believe when the film came out, the soundtrack was actually more successful. And so as you can see, the Coens tended to collaborate with people multiple times, and they were no different when casting the film. Many of the actors in this film have worked with the Coen brothers multiple times. I mean, you got George Clooney, John Turturro, Tim Blake Nelson, John Goodman, Holly Hunter, Charles Durning, Stephen Root, and everyone is perfectly cast. I remember when I was researching for Chimes at Midnight that Orson Welles would often cast based on interesting faces. And I feel like the Coen brothers must have a similar approach, because they always have very interesting characters. I remember when I first saw this movie, I was so surprised at how good George Clooney was at the comedy. It felt really natural for him.
I mean, he's a really skilled actor. What we didn't know at the time, and what most people probably don't know, is that he's also a goofball, which sort of lent itself to the part as well. George is pretty funny, and in spite of how he looks, he's not given to vanity either.
And I think he's a lot like Cary Grant in that way, in just how expressive and committed he can be in these comedic roles, despite being better known and more often cast for serious roles.
And stay out of the Woolworth.
Well, that was...
Oh, brother, where art thou?
Oh yeah, I almost forgot. The name O Brother Where Art Thou comes from the 1941 Preston Sturges film Sullivan's Travels, and in that film the main character wants to make a movie about the Great Depression, which he has called O Brother Where Art Thou. So if you'd like to watch O Brother Where Art Thou, it shouldn't be too hard to find. It's on all the major streaming sites to rent or buy, and in the past I've also seen it on Netflix and Amazon Prime. And physically, you can get this on DVD and Blu-ray pretty easily. To my knowledge, there are no special editions of this or anything. I know some of the Coen's bigger films have gotten some nice box sets and things like that. So I think it's just a standard DVD and Blu-ray. But also because of that, it's not really too hard to get. Last I checked, the Blu-ray was on Amazon for about $10, so it's not too bad. But for today's comment question, I'm wondering, what's your favorite Coen Brothers film? They've made tons of great ones to choose from over the years, and so put your favorites in the comment section below and start discussing. Besides that, remember to like, subscribe, and keep watching movies. I'll see you next week.